All right. So we have Jennifer Pham here, and I'm so excited for today's show because I feel like she really embodies what we talk about on this podcast. And that's really taking the time for self-reflection and looking at your life objectively and making changes in your habits, and then kind of seeing what happens with your life after that, because it can be really great if you live your life intentionally. And I'm so excited because she's interested in so many different things. The first question I have for you, well, first, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Pham. My nickname is Nookie. That's what most people actually call me. I am the co-owner of Mini Thing Sa Pharmacy, which is the oldest Vietnamese business on Argyle Street in Uptown, Chicago. I am also the co-founder of Hai Ba Yo, which is a Southeast Asian. Well, it started off as a pop-up party, but it's evolved so much, which we can get into in our conversation. I'm also the co-founder of Celebrate Argyle, which is a initiative by 4 other of my good friends, and we've created a platform for businesses on Argyle to essentially thrive through a marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. So we can get into that, but that's the gist of it.
She has a lot going on. So something I'm experiencing right now, I was thinking the other day that I haven't slept in like over a year. Like in the morning, I don't lie in bed. I just get up because I'm so excited for the day. Do you also experience that with the things you're doing and kind of driven by your purpose?
Yeah, I think more so lately, I've been waking up very excited to take on the day. I mean, it hasn't always been that way. I've had a lot of days where I wake up and I just feel a little confused and not really sure like how to tackle my day. Yeah. But I think I'm kind of at that point now where I feel really excited, just about the connections that I'm making and the community that is coming together.
Yeah. How has self-reflection and being objective about your thoughts and habits, how has that improved your life?
Self-reflection, that is a huge part of my life, and it allows me to be very intentional with everything that I do, as far as creating community and just experiences in general. For me, I've had to self-reflect often, just kind of taking a look at like why I do the things that I do, why I am the way I am, and also really looking at my triggers, because those are, I feel like, kind of like points in time where I feel like they're there so that we can break through them. So it kind of helps us like evolve.
Now, what do you mean by triggers?
Triggers, things that just bother us. Like me personally, like I'll notice if something bothers me, if like it'll start to bring up like these kind of like quote unquote nasty emotions, like not feeling like anger or sadness, grief, those types of feelings, or even just like feeling annoyed or something. Like a lot of times, I think it's really important to take a look at that, because those are points for us to heal. And I feel like those times that I have were able to break through those moments have allowed me to kind of like evolve and kind of get to the next level of learning in life.
So do you find like in the moment when you're experiencing anger or like irritation, you can like stop yourself and be like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah, I can now, because I've gotten a pretty good hold on my emotions, I think. But it took a while. It took a lot of journaling. It took a lot of therapy. And it took a lot of, asking myself difficult questions.
Talk about asking yourself difficult questions, because like on this show, so I'm kind of on my own journey where like 3 years ago, I went through this near-death experience, and then I just went on this quest of like, I would go through books and just read books all the time. And then I would take very intentional steps every single day. I'm sure some of the things that you do too, like meditation and journaling and a lot of self-reflection. it's not an easy thing to do, to be objective about yourself and ask yourself these hard questions.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really discourages people from doing it. Mm-hmm. But do you find that you have to go through that pain and that healing to like get at a good point in your life?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, okay, so for me, I wasn't always that way. I was constantly escaping my emotions. I would do it like through drinking, partying. Although it was fun and I'm happy that like I had those experiences and everything, but I kept hitting this point where I felt like I kept hitting a wall, and I felt like I couldn't get past it. And I there was so much that I felt like I couldn't see, I couldn't understand. I didn't know why there was so much that was bothering me. And I was just feeling so angry, and I didn't know where it was coming from. And it was the point where it just felt so overwhelming that I couldn't handle it anymore. That's when I really, took my time and made it a point to do all that self-healing. It was because I felt like I couldn't handle it anymore. If I didn't do self-reflection, then I would continue to just be in the dark with my feelings.
Do you feel like you're involved with so much? Do you feel like, I'm sure like outside people will tell you like, oh, you're doing too much or whatever. Uh-huh. But do you find that you're able to do all this because you have like a foundation of kind of like caring for yourself and understanding yourself?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I've had a lot of people tell me, and it's not that I've never been burnt out either, because there's been many moments where my friends are like, you need to rest, you need to take a break. And although I agree, I think I feel like I'm in a really good place right now, just saying, because I've been able to really reflect so much that I can ground myself now. Yeah. And take that time out for myself. If I didn't have that self-care, then I wouldn't be able to do all the things that I do.
So what does your like morning routine look like? Like for reflection and self-care, what does it look like?
Yeah. So it's been changing up a little bit, because I've been adding like an hour workout in the morning, which I wasn't doing before. Okay. But usually I'll wake up, and the first thing I do is I get out of bed. I drink some water, usually with lemon, and then I play positive affirmations. I just play some YouTube and have positive affirmations going for like maybe 20 minutes.
What's a positive affirmation? Is it just like music or videos,
there's like music in the background, like binaural beats in the background, but it's usually someone speaking, saying, I'm going to have a wonderful day, or it could be anything, like I am beautiful, I am so intelligent, I love my life. I love, I meet all the right people. I don't know, just like a bunch of like really positive,
like reinforcements.
Yeah. Exactly. Because I grew up, kind of like telling myself very negative things growing up, Okay. So I kept reading, and I kept learning that, the first part of your day is really important, and whatever you feed your mind in the morning is kind of like sets the tone for the rest of your day. Yeah. So I wanted to try it out, and it just kind of stuck. Okay. And it's helped me immensely.
So you do that, and then you work out?
Yeah. So I do that. I have like a little routine. So I wake up, turn on my positive affirmations, drink my water, right? And then I have this like kind of like mat that I stand on, and it hits like all your acupuncture, like your points in your feet.
Really?
Yeah. And it helps like kind of wake your system up. And I do that when I'm brushing my teeth.
How connected are our feet to like the rest of our body? I mean, it's physically attached, but like
it's everything. Like we're actually meant to be like walking on kind of like rigid surfaces, like on ground and dirt and rocks.
Yeah, like
it's supposed to wake us up, and it's actually it's good for our backs. It's good for our organs, detoxifying. So it's very important. So. I mean, the more I was reading about it, the more I just felt like, well...
Where can you get one of these mats?
You can just get on, like, online.
Like Amazon? Yeah. That one store that has everything?
Yeah, you can get it on there. Yeah, so that's, like, my little routine. And then after that, I get ready, and then I work out. So that's my new routine, where I, like, go to the gym, work out for an hour, come back, and then I do a little journaling. Okay. And if I have time, then I'll do divination cards.
Explain that?
Divination cards are, I guess, similar to tarot cards. where you have like, a deck of cards and you just kind of pick a card intentionally, or you just kind of shuffle them until one of them like falls out and kind of gives you a little like insight on, what's going on with you. And yeah, so I usually I use that to help me with kind of like where I'm at.
So then that all those things set the tone for the day.
Yeah.
Whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Switching gears a bit. So we both have a background in bartending.
Oh.
And it's so interesting what you can learn, what I've certainly learned and taken away from it, and the people that I've met. What life skills have you gained from bartending?
Oh my God, so much. I don't know who I'd be if I didn't have that as an experience. I mean, I've been bartending since I was 21 and I'm 37 now.
There you go.
Yeah. And I mean, it teaches you how to deal with people.
Yeah.
It just, you have to find a connection really quick. Really quick, right away, and with bartending, it's like, it's not just about the drink. It's kind of like a pure connection, like finding something that, we have in common, kind of like sparking up a conversation. There's so much like with bartending.
Because you have to, you're serving people. I think that's the first thing is you learn like that it's about the customer. It's about them and making sure their experience is as best as possible. And it's less about the actual drink itself. And there's so many different types of people that you have to quickly.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's helped you in everything else that you're doing.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. I don't even know where to start with this. Like, I feel like just even if like you come into the bar, right? Like right away, first thing I would ask, like, or how are you doing? How's your day going? Like, what can I get you to drink? And then from there, I make the cocktail. And then for me, like, I would always try to, like, create a very welcoming atmosphere for the person.
How does that happen? How do you set the tone with the atmosphere?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I usually just ask about how, like, depending on how busy I am, right? Because like
that changes totally.
Right. Because if I'm like working at like, I don't know, at 12:30 a.m. on a crazy busy night on a Saturday, I don't really have time for any of that. It's just more so like, what can I get you to drink? All right, cool. And even
sometimes the customers don't understand that.
Sometimes, right. Yeah. Especially like after a few drinks and they want to have like a long conversation with you, or I don't know. It just depends on like what atmosphere. But for the most part, I always try to like create a very fun atmosphere for the person. And and for me, it makes it fun to connect with like you if you were to come in the bar, like just to make kind of like, I don't know, just the time more impactful.
Yeah. So then you can apply kind of that, creating that atmosphere and kind of that positive tone with all the other people you interact with on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
So it's you're able to, they call it like the service industry, but it's really like the people industry, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is.
What's your favorite drink?
My favorite drink, oh God, it's changed so much through the years. And what's funny is like I barely drink now.
I'm the same way.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Like, okay, so why do you think that is?
It used to be different. Like the bar I work at, it used to be like the staff would almost party like every night in a way. But it's become this like creative hub where it's a whole bunch of creatives that are all doing their own thing and entrepreneurs that it's like, we kind of got other stuff going on and we have to be sharp with everything that we're doing. And I'd rather drink more intentionally, whether it's like celebrating. I say I have these like there's 3 C's and I can only drink for the 3 C's, and that's celebration, company, or creativity.
Oh, I love that.
So, but the issue is I can justify in my head all 3 of those
at the
true. Time.
Depending, right.
So that's where discipline comes in and just understanding like, just more perspective. What about you?
Wow. Well, okay. I got to say, I mean, for the first maybe 10 years of bartending, I mean, it was nothing but shots, like all night long with people coming in and then the staff. Because after like a certain hour, say I work at like a 2 a.m. bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually the staff will start drinking kind of like around 12:30 a.m. because it's like closer to the end of the night.
Yeah.
Because we're not about to like take a bunch of shots in the beginning of the night, but during that time we start taking shots. And then it just continues. And then after work, we're continuing to drink. And sometimes we end up at another bar. Like, I would say that was...
A lot of the times.
Almost all the time. Then you, like, say, you know, like, you're making all this money. And then you're spending all this money because you also want to, like, take care of your servers and your bartenders.
Yeah, and then you start hearing those birds chirping.
Yes.
At night.
Yes.
Like, in the morning after you're at the late night bar.
Yeah.
And the sun starts to come up a little bit. You see people on their runs and joggers, and you're like, oh, man.
Yeah. And then you're like, I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
So let me, like, go get some food. And then you come home, and you're like, okay, why did I do this to myself? And then you just continue to do it again. So that was, like, my life for quite some time.
Yeah.
It's no longer like that.
Yeah.
But now when I do drink a cocktail, it's usually like gin based or tequila based, and I really like fresh ingredients. So if they have whatever it is that is made fresh, then I would usually opt for that one over anything else.
So gin, what's your favorite gin?
That's my favorite gin. I mean, I like good old Hendrix.
Hendrix?
Yeah, good old Hendrix. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I usually go different seasons, right? So like summer, coming up summer now, it's like I'll just do like mezcal and a rock. Tuxedo number 2 martini when I do gin. So I like the Koval gin. Hendrix I like. What's this? I like this new one, the Roku.
Roku?
Yeah. Roku gin by the same, I think Suntory makes it. That's pretty good. And then like bourbon, like old fashioned or something.
Okay, nice. Do you do the old fashions with like Demerara sugar cube?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best way.
Yeah. How long have you lived in Chicago for?
I was born in Chicago, so I've actually I've been here like my whole life. I was trying to think, like, the hospital that I was born at was just not that far from here, like maybe like a mile away from here.
Do you ever think about that when you like walk past it? You're like, oh, I was born here.
Yeah.
That's something most people don't experience.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I know that now in Chicago, there's a lot of folks moving here from other states, countries. But you know, I've been here my whole life.
What neighborhoods have you lived in?
I've lived in Uptown. I've lived in West Ridge. I've lived in Rogers Park. I've lived in Albany Park. I've lived in Pilsen. I've lived in some suburbs too. I lived in Morton Grove, Lincolnwood. Where else have I lived in? I lived in Lisle for a little bit. It's just like all over.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, but you're here in Uptown now, right?
Yeah.
And most of your life is spent here in Uptown?
Yeah, I would say for the most part. There was a gap maybe during high school and the beginning of college where I wasn't here that often. Yeah.
But now a lot of the things you do is centered around
everything. Almost everything is centered around this area. And my life has completely like shifted and changed. It's crazy because growing up, I didn't think that I was going to be doing anything that I'm doing here. I actually was just trying to get away from here for a while. Yeah, especially like after high school, I was like, you know what, I don't really care for this area anymore, and I don't need to be here. You know, it like growing up here, it just felt like I loved it because it felt very familiar. It felt like home, but at the same time, it also you know, it wasn't super safe, so it also felt like, oh, I need to get out of the hood. Like it was that feeling. Yeah. You know, so it's like kind of like a love. I didn't hate it. It was just more like love and not kind of wanting to be here for a while. Yeah.
So what brought you back?
What brought me back was my dad. So my father opened up the pharmacy here, which is what I co-own now, right? And that it's the first Vietnamese business on Argyle Street. And this area is predominantly, it's a Southeast Asian neighborhood, but predominantly Vietnamese, right? Or Vietnamese refugees, Vietnamese Chinese refugees. And my dad was actually thinking about selling the pharmacy. And he actually sat me down one day and told me that he might sell it to CVS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when he told me, I just, felt like I wasn't sure how I was gonna. I wasn't sure how I felt at the time, because I was just like, okay, yeah, go do that. But when I really sat with my feelings, I realized that, this area meant so much more to me than anything, and the pharmacy meant way more to me than anything. And I started really taking a look at, the importance of what the pharmacy meant to this community, and how it was such a staple in the neighborhood. It was like right smack in the middle of Argyle Street. It's in the heart. And it wasn't just a pharmacy. When my dad had opened it up, it was a mini mall, right? So it was a video rental store. You can get your film developed there. My mom had her jewelry store in there.
Wow.
You can get, clothes, perfume. I mean, it was kind of like an everything store. And so, you can meet a lot of people in there. So it was very like, normal to like walk in and have like loud music playing, people singing karaoke. Because like my dad would sell like laser discs. Like they're like these big, they look like ginormous DVDs.
Wow.
Do you know what a laser disc is?
I don't know if I've seen one.
It looks like a really big CD. And what
do you put them in? What?
Like it looks like a big like DVD player. That's what it looks like.
Okay.
It's like a karaoke system. They used to sell that, and so there was always music and just random people walking in and out for different things. And people would come and get their medicine, right? But then they'd be like, oh, I want to buy this. I want to buy some jewelry. I want to buy this ring. And, oh, I want to buy this perfume. And, oh, I need some skincare. So, so when my dad told me that he was thinking about selling it, all those memories started to come back up again. And I didn't even remember any of those until then. And I remember getting so emotional about it. And so him and I had a whole conversation about like how we can keep it, and why it's important, and, what I would want to do personally if, I were to take it over. So then we had that conversation, and then kind of like from there, that kind of like sparked everything I do here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can tell that's like a microcosm of the community. What and how it, like, just that one store can impact the community and the people that interact with it and step foot inside the store and walk around and experience. What, with that experience, reflecting on it, what do you love most about the neighborhood of Uptown, and especially Asia and Argyle?
What do I love most about the neighborhood on Argyle? The community.
Yeah.
That's what I love most about it. It's like more than just like the good food. It's more than just like the cool shops. It's literally like the people that are behind it. That's so beautiful. And so my parents, they're Vietnamese refugees, right? And so they had to leave their country and everything that they built because of the war. And after the fall of Saigon in 1975, April 30th, which is tomorrow, their whole lives changed, and they ended up like coming to America, right? And when they came here, they didn't know, they didn't know where life would take them. Like it's not like they even had a choice. It was like they had to leave and just start over and not know where to go and not know if they were going to end up with their family ever again. And so when I think about that, I there's this like deep sadness, but it's also this like care, so much more like care and love I have for this community, because they all felt that. Yeah. Most of the people that like had businesses on the street, not just the people that had the businesses, but the people that lived here, the people that created this area, the people that make up this area, right? Yeah. It's like immigrants, refugees, and them coming together and to create kind of like a sanctuary within a place that is unknown to them, and to create something so beautiful and really care about one another, right? So it wasn't like you open up a store and it's like, oh, I'm going to make more money than you and you. It wasn't any of that. It was like, let me take care of you. Let me see how I can be of help and service to you. So my dad, like, it was, I mean, I would see him go to all the businesses every day. Like, he would go, you know, to the pho restaurant, like, next door. Then he would go across the street and grab, like, some drinks. Then he would go over to, like, his other friend's shop and, you know, hang out over there, but like also spend his money. So it was like the community was just like helping each other out. And within that, there was like so much friendship and so much like love. And there was a lot of like, it felt like a big family in a way, you know?
So would you say a lot of that has rubbed off on you?
For sure. Yeah. The fact that like I had that experience growing up, and seeing how things have changed so much here on Argyle Street, I just feel like it still exists. It's just not as strong and not as, I guess, like, it's not as like wide. I don't know if I'm using the right word for this.
What do you mean by wide?
Like it's like, not, because things have changed so much, and a lot of the businesses weren't able to survive, and like we've lost a lot of businesses, especially during the pandemic, and there's not as many like people hanging out outside like how it was when I was growing up. And so when I say it's not like how it was anymore. Mm-hmm. And there's different folks coming in, moving in, and so the area has changed a lot, but we still have that community here. Yeah,
talk more about that. So the nature of like a city is change, and you know, like maybe life change is like this ever, it's something we have to kind of acknowledge and kind of deal with at the same time. But how do you, when the nature has changed, how does a community remain strong and build upon its identity?
You got to just care about it. Because so during the time that my dad was thinking about selling it, I think a lot of people were feeling like they wanted to give up. My dad's generation, they're a lot older. My dad's now in his 70s. My mom is in her 60s. And that generation, like during Argyle's heyday, the owners of most of the businesses here were about that age. And I feel like a lot of them just kind of like got burnt out, tired. Yeah. Like they're not like wanting to, you know, push it forward so much, you know? And I feel that for me, I mean, when I started caring about it, when I started realizing like, oh, you know, this may not be here in the future. Like that's what is part of the driving force of why I do what I do, because I want it to continue. I want to continue the legacy. I feel like it's such an important part of Chicago, and I don't know, want to see that. I want to see this area thrive so much. And for me, I felt like it was really important for me to connect with others that felt the same way. So I was like, I was on the lookout for like who else felt this way. So I started reconnecting with some of my parents' friends' children who are adults.
So this is now, which kind of leads into some of the stuff that you're doing, but it sounds like a generational shift where you're coming to a sense that, oh, like older generations, they started this, or they ran this for a long time, but now they don't have the strength to do that. Mm-hmm. Do we continue to move it forward, or do we just like peace out and do our own thing, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. Because for a while I was just thinking, peace out, you know. But it was really like when I could see Argyle like not like how it was. I mean, I knew that, you know, like there were vacant stores and, you know, a lot of people like were moving out of this area, but it was literally like when my dad said that, you know, this may not be here anymore.
How long ago was that?
I want to say like 6 years ago or so.
Okay.
Yeah. So I always came into like the pharmacy to help out and like work on the weekends here and there. But I took it very seriously, like starting about 6 years ago. Mm-hmm.
So then when did you start Argyle?
Argyle started in 2019 with my a really good friend of mine, Hak Tran. Yeah. And
talk about that.
Yeah.
I went to I first met you in January. My friend Justina, Justina Wynn, she was DJing at, is it Uni?
Uni,
Uni,
yeah.
yeah. And then we met, and it was so cool because why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, so Uni is this really cute bubble tea shop that opened up on Argyle Street during the pandemic. And we ended up collaborating with Uni, right? And Shifa, who is very active in the Chinatown community, he actually reached out to me telling me about the opening of Uni and like ways that we can collaborate and create a Lunar New Year event. Have a Hai Bai Yo event, but then it also be a grand opening. So I was super excited when he asked me, and I felt super honored too, because you know he does all this like awesome stuff in Chinatown, and then also because I was so scared during the pandemic because I wasn't sure if a lot of the businesses here on Argyle Street were able to like continue, you know, and to have like a store open up during the pandemic was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. Like, let me do everything in my power to make it successful. So yeah, for the Hai Bai Yo event, it was a Hai Bai Yo Lunar New Year event. We, you know, created a 3-day kind of like indoor social distance kind of like festival. So we had vendors, we had performers, we had DJs, and there, you know, with Hai Bai Yo, we mostly highlight Southeast Asian artists or BIPOC artists. And I was very intentional with this one. Hak and I spoke about how important it was to connect with those from Uptown. So we reached out to artists that were specifically from Uptown and that had very strong ties to Argyle Street. We thought it was really important to showcase their artwork because it tells kind of like a story of how we all come together. And one of the reasons why we do this is because, I don't know, we just feel like it's important to find that like passion and love that we all have so that we can, you know, build something out of this area.
As someone, so I've been in Chicago for, I don't know, like 12 years now. And spent the last 7 in North Center. And then 7 months ago, I moved to Uptown. And I just love Uptown. It is so cool. There's so many different kinds of people all doing, like everybody's doing their own thing. And we all just like get along, and there's so much, everything is just so different, and everybody's like offering what they can, whether it's food or culture. It's so interesting to me, and I love it here. And going to that event too, there was this like poster board and like clips, like newspaper clips of, you know, Chicago newspapers from like the 70s and 80s talking about the area and the people here. And it's like, oh wow, there's so much history here. It's so cool that it's like an actual community and neighborhood. And it reminds me a little bit of like Sesame Street in a way, where like everybody's friends and like everybody's doing their thing, and you know there's high rises, and we're all in the city here doing that, and I just love Uptown so much. And I think Asia and Argyle, I live like a block away from everything that you're talking about, and I see that on a daily basis of just people out here doing their thing and just being a community. And I think a lot about community, and those that have listened to this podcast, I read books about cities and communities and how people are the greatest assets of cities and communities, like you mentioned earlier. And there's just so many different and interesting types of people here. I love it.
It's a melting pot of like different cultures and personalities. I mean, this area, I mean, there's just so much history here with like the Green Mill being here, the Uptown Theater and the Riviera. And I mean, this was like the area where, you know, all the, I guess like Hollywood was here, you know, this was like how things were back in the day. And, you know, there's so much personality in this area. It's such a gem, and it's right by the lake.
That's another great thing.
I love it.
So what does a thriving Asia on Argyle look like to you in the future?
A thriving Argyle looks like, well, all the businesses being very excited to be here,
Yeah.
right? So meaning like they're not struggling, you
Yeah.
know, and they're getting lots of business. So that's one. Two, I want to see this area just coming back to life. Like, I feel like there's so much excitement here and personality, and I feel like it just needs to shine. Like I can see it, right? But like other people may not see it.
Yeah.
So like I really just want kind of the community coming together and working with one another, and just,
which is kind of like the path that you are on with your organization of bringing creatives within the community, which I like in this digital world that we live in. How significant and important is still physical community, you think?
I think physical community is almost everything, I mean, obviously, like, we can connect through, like, the digital world, but I think there's just something beautiful about, like, seeing another person, like, physically and talking to them and just asking them how they're doing, and really, like, being able to see their facial expressions and being able to, like, gift one another things, right? Like, I think that's something that I remember a lot, like, when I was growing up, and seeing how my parents were with their friends and the other business owners. I mean, they were all like, everybody was always gifting each other something, and
Really?
and that still exists now, like
Okay.
at the pharmacy, because most of the folks that come in, they're Vietnamese, and they're they come in, they pick up their medication, but the patients are always giving us stuff like food and snacks.
Really?
Yeah, it's like almost every single day we have like a new snack. So
Wow.
it's just, there's something just so beautiful about like being able to see someone give something to someone, and, just be in the same space.
So what lessons would you say you've learned from community building?
That's an interesting question, right? Because I never really, like, I didn't look at it as community building before. I was just like, oh, I just want to have fun and bring people together, But when I was like, I guess when you say it like that, it's like community building.
It's more of a formal, I would say.
It sounds so formal.
What you're doing is community building, but you don't look at it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it is,
Yeah. For those looking to build up their own communities that they're a part of, like what advice would you give them?
I think it's important to talk to, I mean, okay, if it's an area like this where it's a lot of business owners, right? And that like is a big make of the area. I think one, talking to what the businesses need.
Okay.
Asking them simple questions like, okay, like, what are you struggling with? What do you think, we can do more of? Like, what do you, just like different ways.
What are you seeing?
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
because they're interacting with
right.
people.
I think it's important to like have these conversations with the business owners, right? But then on top of that, it's also important to talk to the people that live here.
Yeah.
And then also talking to like the community leaders to see what's going on. I think it's literally just all communication, like going out of your way to, figure out like what everyone's needs are, and kind of like just being conscious of that, and, making an effort to kind of meet them and do something about it,
You're part of the Chamber of Commerce here in Uptown.
Yeah, I'm on the board. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you learn from being on there? Like what?
I love it.
It's got to be so interesting.
Yeah, it's such a cool community, and everyone's so open-minded and creative and just so in love with Uptown. Everyone that's part of the chamber, I gotta say, like, there's just very strong love to see Uptown thrive. We all feel that way. And I for me, like, I learn a lot of history about Uptown. I learn about God, there's so much, like, just what other businesses that even exist here in Uptown, the nonprofit organizations that are here. Like, there's so much here that I didn't even know existed before I started with the chamber.
Are you guys, is the chamber a part at all of like murals around the
Yeah,
neighborhood?
yeah. Justin actually handles that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
so yeah, he's the one that gets all the artists in contact with the chamber, and then having the murals up. But
It's so cool because I just love, one of my favorite things to do to like clear my head is just go on walks.
mhm,
And I find that just like walking around Uptown is just so interesting.
yeah,
Like the architecture, the people, there's all these murals, there's the lake. It's just
Yeah.
like a
yeah.
lot going on.
And that's what I say about like seeing, Argyle thrive, but Uptown in general thrive,
Mhm.
is to be able to have more visibility,
Yeah.
just for us to shine,
Mhm.
like literally through like art, through community, through events. Yeah.
So switching things up a little bit, can you think of a day in your life that you consider your best day?
I've been having a lot of best days lately.
That's
Uh,
that's a great answer. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, it would involve taking care of myself, right?
Okay.
So like exercising would definitely be one of them. Being in nature
Okay.
would be a very important aspect of it. Seeing my family,
Okay.
seeing my really good friends, seeing my partner,
Mm-hmm.
just laughing, having fun.
So it's like now
Traveling.
you're at a point where you're just like, because you're taking care of all these things that you're saying are pretty fundamental in life, right? And through taking care of these fundamentals, it seems like you're like living your best life every day, right?
I feel that way now. Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I love that.
Yeah. I feel freaking great. I mean, but I mean, there's a lot of like stuff. There's still a lot of work to do, right? Like I feel
Right,
good
of
because I
course.
feel like I'm doing my best.
And you're doing your part.
Yeah, I'm
in a
doing
way.
my part,
Yeah.
and I'm doing my best, and that's what makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I'm curious about is if you have any books that have especially influenced you at all.
Yeah.
Maybe you could name a few.
Yeah, there's been so many books. Well, I like The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
The Four Agreements.
Yeah.
That's second time this has been.
Yeah, that's
referenced
like,
on
I feel like everyone should just read that book. It's just a good go-to foundational book.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that one. I like pretty much almost all of Eckhart Tolle's books.
Who's this?
Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if it's Eckhart Tolle or Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
But he wrote like A New Earth, The Power of Now. Those are amazing
interesting.
self-development type books.
Okay.
And helps you with like skills to just like be in the present moment, and ways to like live a really great life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say those three books. I mean, there's so many other books. Like I liked Emergent Strategy. God, there's like You're a Badass by Jen Sincero. There's just so many. Like
I have read that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think of all the like
it's just
self-development books. I found that one to be like, I like that.
Yeah.
One, you know, I gifted that to someone as well.
Okay.
This was like a year and probably like 2 years ago. You said about like being present and like in the now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like humans and, not humans, but we're taught to look at time all the time.
Yeah. So much so I have keep track of time right on my arm.
And it's important. You got to be,
Yeah.
you got to like take care of your time, right? But then there's something about being present with someone, sitting here having a conversation and connecting with one another. Like we're not able to get like this second back.
No.
And I think it's really important to like really be here in the now and not spend, I mean, obviously it's like not easy sometimes to like not think about the future and not think about the past, because those are moments that we're not in the now. But when we sit here and are literally like in our bodies here, present, and having this conversation, it's just like, it's almost as if like we're bending time, right?
Yeah.
Because
pausing time.
Yeah, we're pausing time, right? And like we're here. That's like the most important. Because we spend so much time like chasing the future or like ruminating in the past. But it's just important to like be here now.
So as someone who is involved with as much as you are, do you find that like for listeners that are find that hard to believe because we're taught so much about the hustle and time and thinking about the future and all these different things. How are you able to? Is that part of all the things that you've been doing? Is that you plan it out, but you're very intentional about all the time that you spend, right?
Yeah. So I've definitely gotten better with time because I was like used to be chronic late person. I've gotten much better. But I think it's, when you think about like old memories and things that just kind of stick with you, that just make you feel so good. Those were times when you were in the present moment.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to keep creating here. Like, although like I have to go from meeting to meeting or go to work and all these things, I make it a point to have a really good time no matter what I'm doing. And it's like, I try to make it so that it's like a party every time,
So it's like you're choosing to create these experiences.
Yeah.
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 That's incredible.
Yeah. It's a practice, right? It's not like, I just wake up and I'm always like this, but it's intentional, so I think I think that's part of being in the now too, is being intentional with how you want your time to be, like how you want to feel, what you want to create, what you want to get out of it, and how you want the other person to feel.
So do you have like a long-term vision of your life?
Yes and no, right?
Okay.
Like there's certain things that I don't know will happen. Like one day, like I would love to, have kids and be married and all that one day, but I don't know like where life will take me, right? I just know for sure that I want to take care of my body. I want to continue to be a better person. I want to have really great relationships with people, and I want to see this community thrive. Like those are just pretty simple. So like just going like that's like my long-term goal. Yeah. Continuing it. And
so know the direction.
Yeah. I know the direction.
Which is probably the most important. Like, because none of us can. It's about knowing the direction and then in the moment doing what you can do.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is there something you're curious about recently?
Boundaries.
Boundaries.
Healthy boundaries. I've learned about boundaries growing up. I've heard it, but I never really taken the time to learn about healthy boundaries very much. Like now, not like to the level that I do now. And I realized that I was lacking boundaries growing up. And that's like something that, I don't know, I've just been so curious about it lately because I feel like, wow, like there's so many people in this world that don't have healthy boundaries. And it's not because they don't want that. It's because like we're taught to not, a lot of people are not taught boundaries. So I wasn't taught good boundaries.
Explain it a little bit more. What do you mean by boundaries?
So like, like for me, for example, I grew up feeling like I didn't have a choice. I grew up thinking only adults know everything, kids don't know anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that I had a choice with anything, with like my career, with wanting to eat certain foods. Like I felt like I literally had no choice. And for me, when I would say no, I would get in trouble. So I had a really hard time saying no growing up. And I kept having these feelings of sometimes like, oh man, like I didn't want to do that. Why did I say yes? And then like I found myself not being fully present, like not showing up. I would come half-assed or, just not fully present. And I started realizing it's because of boundaries. I could have easily just said no, but I was scared to say no. So I feel like I've just been so curious lately because I'm like, well, now I've been practicing healthy boundaries, like, these past few years and everything. But I've just been so curious about it because it's making me reflect on those times that I've said yes to times to those things that I wanted to say no to, and I didn't know that saying no was okay before.
Do you ever feel like when you're reflecting on these things, is there like ever a tiny part of you that's like, I wish I would have started this sooner?
Yeah.
But then you can't let that get in your head.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes like I'll get in my head like, oh man, but I again self-reflect, which is important, and then it's like you tell yourself, well, what can I do now to make it better? Mm-hmm. And also, the thing with boundaries too is like setting boundaries for my self-talk, because I think for a while I would have negative self-talk. I would allow myself to beat myself up and say things like, oh, you're so tired, but like you should keep going. You have to do this. Like being mean. And I realized that I have to have a boundary with that negative self-talk too. And actually taking care of myself by saying like, you know what, you need rest. It's okay to rest. It's okay to take a break. You can handle it tomorrow. Like you've done a great job. Like I have to literally tell myself these things.
That sounds like me last night before
really? Bed. I feel you.
No, you're tired right now. Don't try it. Don't try it. I know you got it up on the whiteboard, but don't do it. Don't do it. You did what you could do today. Sometimes actually, like in school, instead of cramming the night before, I would go to bed early so that I'm fresh for the next day. So when I take the test, I'm like in my own element rather than being tired. So it's almost like preparing yourself for the next day, and not trying to do everything right because you're not going to be able to do it right at your fullest capacity. And that's part of self-reflecting too, because you have to self-reflect in order to know like what your habits are and what you need to do the next day, like what you want to create the next day. It's not just today. Like you need to allow yourself to have the energy to be able to handle all the things you want to handle. Exactly. Well, wrapping up here, do you have any favorite spots on Argyle?
For food or?
Yeah, let's go food.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's so hard because I love all the restaurants here on Argyle, and I go.
That's a hard question for me to ask you. I know.
But I'll give you like my top 3 of like certain dishes that I get from certain places.
Sure.
So I love going to 777 Pho. Okay,
I've been there.
Yeah. I get the fish noodle soup from there. The bunka. Yeah. Okay. So most people they go there. Like most people they go to the Vietnamese restaurants. They order the same 3 things, which are delicious, but it's usually pho, banh mi, spring rolls. They're so good. It sounds
exactly like me.
Yeah. I mean that's. I mean it's amazing, But every restaurant here on Argyle Street has they're like they're really. They make certain dishes really, really well. Okay. So the fish noodle soup from there is amazing. It's so good. It has dill, tomato, and they fry the fish. Okay. Wow. And it's amazing. One of the owners, she is from Hanoi, which is the northern region of Vietnam, and so she specializes in that type of cooking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I haven't traveled much. I've been outside the country 3 times. Paris, Spain, and then took a trip to Southeast Asia, and it happens Vietnam is one of them.
Oh, nice.
One of the places. So Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City. Spent a lot of decent amount of time there, and then it just happens I now live in a Vietnamese neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
And I gotta say, like, on our trip we found the people there to be just so kind.
Yeah.
And when I go to restaurants here, it's like blown away by the customer service. It's so nice.
Yeah. Because it feels like you're at home. Yeah. Like they just take care of you. Like, is the food well?
They take care
are
of
you
good? So well.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. Like when I talk about community and taking care of one another here, that's how it is.
It really is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what are some other spots?
Oh, yum. I'm just talking about food. I really like the egg noodles from Double Happiness. That's like old school, and it's been there like my whole entire life growing up. It's so good. The menu hasn't changed at all. It looks exactly the same as when I would order food in the 90s.
Double happy.
Yeah, like it looks exactly the same as it did.
Okay.
I think they had like a paint job and they kind of like moved some things around, but
Okay.
it just looks almost the same. I love that place. And my newest favorite has been Da Nang Kitchen. They're like a little newer, and they have these really delicious bangkok, which are they're kind of like banh xeo, which is like the mini, or it's a banh xeo is a Vietnamese crepe. And
Okay.
it has like shrimp and pork, bean sprouts.
What streets is this one at?
It's on Argyle
envision
Street. It's
Is it on the corner? There's one on the corner that I'll go to.
are you talking about Nhà hàng Vietnam? They have like an outdoor section.
I have
It's,
to
like,
admit,
really kitschy inside.
I can't read a lot of the signs.
Okay, does it just say Vietnamese restaurant?
Right?
Because that's what the name of the restaurant is called.
Okay.
Literally, I think that's what you're talking about.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that restaurant's on the corner. That place is really good too. Yeah.
Was the bakery here when you were a kid?
Which bakery?
It's right by the train tracks.
Chiu Kwan
Yeah.
Bakery. Yeah, it was there when I was growing up.
Okay,
Mhm.
that place is great.
Yeah, that
It's cash
also looks
only
the
if
same
you go there.
from back in the day as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Any other last spots?
Oh man, so many. I'm trying to let me try to pin one down. Well, like the other day I had the what is it? The bung ca nướng from 888. That was delicious.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Nice.
like I'm really into fish, so I try not to eat too much meat in general, and when I do, it's fish.
Nice.
But yeah, I get that there. I really love it. The food there is so fresh and delicious.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So many of the restaurants here are so good.
So good.
Oh, my
So good.
goodness.
I mean, you could literally like spend, I mean, every single day eating at a different place and trying out a different dish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap this up, where can people learn more about what you're doing and more about you?
Sure. You could follow our Hai Bayo page, HAI_BAYO on Instagram. Also celebrate.argyle on Instagram. Or you could just follow me, my personal page. Where is Nuki? WHEREISNUKY.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. This has been so fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.